Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. My apologies to everybody out there who may have been waiting for me to do the news and views. We've had rain most of the day, and as you know, when it gets that kind of weather, I like to stick pretty close to the radio, keep an ear out for any potential severe weather alerts, and be ready to dash with my pooch to the storm shelter. So that's the reason I'm a little bit late today. I also had some sad news from a family friend that just lost a much beloved pet dog, and she was truly a sweetie, and I'm very sad because I had some very strong feelings for this little pooch myself. In fact, it was that little pooch that inspired me to get my little pooch. So my heart goes out to my friend for the loss of his dog, and been dealing with that. But anyway, there is some news. We're kind of in between rain right now, so I decided I'd better do the news and views and get it out there. But before I do that, remember there is no vid chat tomorrow, and I do, again, as I say, apologize. Our next vid chat will be a week from tomorrow, and Catherine Fitz and I just recorded her update for this first quarter of 2025, and that should be coming out pretty soon, so keep an eye peeled for that. Now, in the news, as you know, President Trump wants to start a sovereign wealth fund for the country, a portion of which is supposedly going to be held in various cryptocurrencies. And I want to say just right up front, I think that any government investment in cryptocurrencies is a colossally bad idea, because essentially what the government is doing is taking your money and selling off. I suspect what they're going to do is sell off hard assets and leave the taxpayer and the government with nothing but electronic blips on a computer screen. Well, there's a story out there titled "Governments Sell Their Bitcoin and Buy Gold," and I want you to listen to this. I'm going to read a few paragraphs from this story. It's very important because it highlights the concern that I and others have about this sovereign wealth fund and the use of cryptocurrencies within it. My objection to them remains what it has always been, and to quote Catherine Austin Fitz, there is no such thing as a cyber system that is secure. I said this the moment I heard about the emergence of cryptocurrencies and their supposedly safe and unhackable nature. And, you know, I was not listened to, and many people didn't listen, but now it turns out they can be hacked. It also turns out that they use enormous amounts of energy just to mine them. So in other words, we're not dodging the bullet with cryptocurrencies. This article is a jaw dropper. I hope it hammers home something very important. So here we go. Quote, Bitcoiners are hoping that the Trump administration will pump their bags to new all-time highs this year with a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But all around the world, governments are selling Bitcoin and buying gold, not the other way around. Why, folks? Well, very simple. Gold is a hard asset. It's an asset. It's not an electronic blip on a computer screen that can be hacked or vanish in an electromagnetic pulse or whatever other emergency may happen. Continuing. Quote, meanwhile, Bitcoiners claim that it doesn't need the state to endorse it, yet they cheer for any policy or candidate that promises to further legitimize their so-called cyberpunk freedom money. Even as many of these state crypto schemes devolve, sometimes into outright fraud. Somewhat ironically, the U.S. Bitcoin Reserve is currently made up solely of Bitcoin that the government has confiscated from people through the courts or other legal actions. Trump crypto czar David Sachs commented recently that if the U.S. held on to every Bitcoin it has confiscated, its value would have gone from $366 million to over $17 billion. Quote, that's how much it has cost American taxpayers not to have a long-term strategy, unquote. But the long-term strategy of governments and central banks around the world is to sell Bitcoin and buy gold instead. And despite its claims to radical transparency as a protocol, there seems to be a distinct lack of clarity as to the precise amount of Bitcoin various governments have. Gee, I thought it was supposed to be transparent, that you couldn't increase or decrease, and so on and so forth. In fact, Sachs Sorcerer's own numbers was Grok, X's AI bot. Not even the Trump administration's crypto czar knows exactly how much crypto the U.S. holds. Well, gee, I thought we were busily trying to get rid of all that fraud in government accounts. And now we don't know how much cryptocurrency the government has. Fancy that. Many Bitcoiners say they don't trust the state. Gosh, I wonder why. But at the same time, they are trusting the state to securely custody the private keys to the Bitcoin that will pump up the price of their own holdings. If the government declares Bitcoin strategically important and starts mining or buying, and something goes wrong and it loses its Bitcoin forever, as many have, the price crashes. The Bitcoin camp can't seem to decide whether the state is their enemy or their savior. And I'm going to skip now a couple of paragraphs down to this very significant paragraph. And I'm going to end it there because this says it all, and it says, in my opinion, all the things that need to be said of why everyone hearing this should be very skeptical about sovereign wealth funds that include cryptocurrencies. Because I'll say it again, folks, and I'll be very blunt. It's a scam. Quote, in 2024... Germany sold tens of thousands of Bitcoins seized from a piracy operation. German officials explicitly cited Bitcoin's volatility as a reason to divest, redirecting some proceeds to purchase 30 tons of gold bullion. Russia offloaded thousands of Bitcoin confiscated from ransomware attacks in 2023 and has been a huge buyer of gold, with a consistent trend of keeping a robust Russian gold stack to reduce its dependence on the U.S. dollar. So in other words, just the volatility itself is one of the reasons, at least in Germany's case, that they've sold off their cryptocurrency assets and bought gold. Now, I don't know how to put it elsewise, folks. If you think that there's going to be a sovereign wealth fund that is going to create all sorts of wealth for the United States consisting of computer blips on a screen that have to be mined with an expensive, off-the-charts use of energy to do it, and then that cryptocurrency, whatever it may be, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, is in turn a volatile, quote-unquote, asset, and it's not even hard. I've got bad news for you. You are being sucker punched, and it's a fraud. And it's a fraud, in this case, in my opinion, on the people. So, no, I'm not in favor of sovereign wealth funds. No, I'm not in favor of cyber currencies or cryptocurrencies or whatever else you want to call them. Because it is a scam that is going to backfire and I think catch people in a trap the more they get involved with it. So I'll put this article up. It's accompanied with several. It's accompanied with several graphs that would be good for you to look at. And I want to end with this paragraph from the article. Across the world, it's a consistent strategy. Governments are unloading Bitcoin, and central banks are stockpiling gold. And let me change one word in that sentence, because I I am quite confident that this is not simply restricted to Bitcoin. In other words, cryptocurrencies in general. The trend extends beyond Western powers. China, a longtime gold accumulator, has sold off minor Bitcoin holdings while adding hundreds of tons of gold to its reserves in 2023 alone. India mirrors this approach, liquidating thousands of Bitcoins seized from crypto scams while its central bank purchased gold. Globally, the central banks bought a record amount of gold in 2022, with purchases accelerating into 2025. While Bitcoin sales from government coffers have become more routine, unquote. Now, folks, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go out and buy lots of gold. I'm not giving any financial advice here because I'm not a financial expert. But I am saying beware of the cryptocurrency sovereign wealth fund scam, because that's what it is. You are being urged to buy into a program where we're supposedly going to get wealthy by government stashing a certain amount of its money into a sovereign wealth fund, consisting with a fraction of it going to cryptocurrencies. Don't be deceived. It's in my opinion, just another vast pump and dump scheme. So that'll do it. Don't forget, we do not have a vid chat tomorrow. Our next one will be a week from tomorrow. Please keep your fingers crossed. We're in for more rain tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday. So I'll try and be back with you next week. But as you know, we're in that period of the year where weather can change on a dime. So my heart goes out to everybody that has suffered losses in these recent storms as well. It'd be nice if we could just have rain for a change, to all you people playing with the weather. Rain without the threat of floods, tornadoes, everything else that you've been sending our way. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's news and views from the Nefarium. Bye-bye, everybody. God bless, and we'll see you on the flip side.